This will be part 4 of our teaching that we're doing in 1 Thessalonians. And we're talking about the day of Yahuah, or what your English translations says as the day of the Lord. And again, I mentioned in our past teachings that this reference of the day of Yahuah is referred to approximately 25 times in the scriptures. It's a day of wrath. It's a day of Yahuah's anger. It's a day of judgment. It's a day of punishment for the nation of Yasharel. It's referred to as Jacob's trouble in the book of Jeremiah. It's a time frame that Yahuah is going to use to bring the nation of Yasharel to their realization of who the Messiah is, and the Mashiach. And it's also a time that the sinners will be removed off the earth. So it's a very serious time that we're about to enter into. Now that's the bad side of or the bad news of the day of Yahuah. The good news is that those that have put their faith and trust in the Mashiach, that have been born of the Ruach HaKodesh, will not have to endure this time frame. Now, Paul, and we're going to read through our sessions about what the Apostle Paul had to say about this aspect, especially as he wrote to the church in Thessalonica, that they would not have to endure this terrible time frame, because he made reference to the fact that we were delivered from the wrath to come. Again, I pointed out the fact is that the wrath to come is not a reference to eternal punishment or the lake of fire, or it will be cast into hell. It's talking about the judgment time of Yahuah in reference to this the tribulation period. So we've been delivered from those that have their faith and trust in the Mashiach, have been born of the Ruach HaKodesh. We will not have to face that time frame. In fact, Paul even mentions in chapter 4 here, we haven't got down to this verse yet, but of chapter 4 verse 18, he says, "Wherefore comfort one another with these words." So I'm here to comfort you today that are part of the family of Yahuah, that have been born of the Ruach HaKodesh, and to comfort you and let you know that you will not have to endure this time frame. Now, I know there's a lot of different opinions, there's a lot of different, ideas that people have about this. It's one of the most controversial subjects, I guess, that you could get into. I think that's why a lot of people don't avoid teaching it, because they don't really want to get into controversy. But I honestly believe that that's not right. I believe that we should teach, even if we have opposing views, even if you oppose what I'm sharing with you. If you will listen, and listen not just to this particular session, but all the ones that we'll be doing on this, with an open mind, and that hopefully you'll see things the way that I actually, not because I see it that way, but because the way that I've seen it from every angle. I've seen it from where people say there is no rapture. I've heard people say that the rapture will happen at the end of the tribulation. Some people say and believe that the rapture, or the catching up of the church, will happen in the middle part of the tribulation. I mean, there's all kind of opinions out there, and a lot of people get confused, and they don't know what to believe. Well, if you'll thoroughly search it out, because I've like I said, I've heard all of the different opinions. I think if you sent me something that was different, I mean, from your standpoint of what you view this time frame about, that I would not have heard that remark already made. So we're going to get into this, and so with that said, I want to continue reading down through here. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. In fact, I would encourage you to read chapter 4, verse 13 through 18, and just follow along what's being said here. It says, "But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, or those that have died before us, that you sorrow not, even as others which have no hope." Now again, Paul is saying he doesn't, and this is the will of Yahuah, that we be not ignorant of this. See, this is another proof of the fact is why we should study this out, because Yahuah does not want us to be confused. He wants us to know, as believers, is the reality of the tribulation period, and to be aware of the signs and the times that we're living in, and to be sober, to be vigilant, about the time frame that we're living in, and also to realize that there's great comfort in the fact to know that we as believers will not have to go through this time frame. But even with that said, it would also stir us up to live a separate life unto Yahuah, to be more conscious and more committed to our relationship and our fellowship with Him. Realize as the more that we see that day approaching, the book of Hebrews says that we're to don't neglect the assembling of ourselves together, even as you the more that you see the day of Yahuah approaching. In other words, that it's very important that you and I stay built up spiritually, and that we are strong in Yahuah, especially as we see this day approaching, because we do not want to be someone that turns away, or someone that is is slack in their walk with Yahuah when He's about ready to appear and catch up his church, His body of believers. And so we want to be sober. We want to be vigilant. We want to be ready to go, as the Mashiach encouraged us to watch and to be ready. For He said that He was coming at a time that we would not expect Him to come. So, in other words, He also said He will come as a thief in the night. Now, let me say this about that aspect of it. I believe that for those that aren't born again of the Ruach HaKodesh, of course, it's going to catch them totally by surprise. It's going to catch them as a thief in the night. Those there may be believers that are not paying attention either to what's happening. It's going to catch them as a thief in the night. But those that are ready, those that are seeking, those that are watching and praying, as Yahushua said, we're ready. I'm ready. I'm watching every day. I'm ready to go. I have separated myself emotionally, every way I can away from this earth. I'm ready. I set my affection on things above, not on things on this earth. So I'm ready to go. And I want to encourage you that if you're not, that you get that way real quick. Now, it doesn't mean that you still don't plan for your future. You live your life as you normally would live it, except for the fact is that you realize of the urgency of the time frame that we're living in. That's going to cause you to live a more separate life unto Yahuah. It's also going to encourage you to warn others that do not know, your family, your friends who do not know Yahushua, to let them know to the time frame that we're about to enter into, and encouraging them that if they don't know the Mashiach, that they repent and believe on the Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach, the Messiah, and trust Him for their salvation. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and I love you. Yahuah loves you, and please share this with others, and we'll join together on our next session. Shalom.